Hey everybody, happy Wednesday, happy hump day. And if it ain't happy, we know we gonna make it through the week. Okay, so I wanted to get on here because I have a few thoughts. Also because I actually recorded this whole video already, but for some reason Photo Booth was playing around, and when it was done, it was like at nothing. So I'm gonna do it right now while I have the energy. Shannon Sharpe. Okay. So I will get to the details. So I'm really asking that you be patient and not presume that I am saying things that I'm not saying until you get done. Okay, so Shannon Sharpe, we know that he was sued by a young woman who goes by the name of Gabrielle Zuniga, a white adjacent girl. The name is of Spanish origin though, and she's like 20. Now, I have lots of thoughts because a lot of those Latino women, they're fast, they date older men, especially in places like the Dominican Republic, because they've normalized those predatory relationships and marriage. Okay? They act like it's okay. Jocelyn Hernandez, like those kind of things happen to people very early. I'm not saying that even as a read on her, I'm just saying that's an example. So we have pictures of her taking ass shots. She's talking about how much money it is per cheek, all this other stuff. She was talking dirty to get money from Shannon Sharpe. They were in a consensual relationship, which she acknowledged, but what she's suing him over is the assaults that happened that were not the sexual assaults that were not consensual. And yes, you can be with somebody and still say no. Okay? Now, and her talking dirty to get money and doing certain things for money and essentially prostituting herself is unfortunate, but it is how a lot of these young women think. Okay? That it's an appropriate way to behave, whether it's social media influence. And quite frankly, if you grew up in a home where your mama was doing it, you think it's acceptable. Okay? Now, but that honestly isn't the first issue. The first issue is that she's 20 and she met Shannon Sharpe when she was about 18 or 19. Shannon Sharpe is a grown man and he's 56 years old. Don't give me that pulling the black man down bullshit right now. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Shannon Sharpe is 50 fucking 6 years old with a 20-year-old. First of all, that's predatory, and you were messing with her because you felt like you could control her because she's young and dumb and didn't know anything. She's also seeing you as a big cash cow, and wow, I can talk to Shannon Sharpe and have sex with him and get money. She also doesn't have enough life experience. Okay? That in and of itself is already a problem. I don't give a shit about the technical of age. All that means is I didn't want to go to jail for messing with anybody younger. He messes with young women because he wants to control them. Period. Okay? This is the same man that sits on Club Shay Shay, if you ask me, is giving Pride Month. Okay? Nevertheless, and shouts down black women, whenever they talk about, with the exception of Monique, whenever they talk about how they have standards, how they want a man that makes more than them because they make a lot, so on and so forth. He hollers like a hit dog every time. Man, why y'all like that? Why y'all like that? Examples: Cash Doll, Amanda Seals, Cheryl Underwood, all accomplished black women with their own. Right? And he's going off. And I was thinking to myself, this is the kind of shit that 25-year-olds and 26-year-olds complain about because they broke. Here you are, a millionaire. You are a grown man arguing with women younger than you or your age, it was in the case of Cheryl Underwood, about why they should not have these expectations of men. You have plenty of money. Why does that offend you? It offends you because it's coming out of black women's mouths. I guarantee you, if it was a white woman, he wouldn't even think about that. He would never present that and react that way toward her. It's the kind of how dare you as a black person, specifically a black woman, how dare you have these kind of expectations? Y'all should be lucky that you get any fucking thing. You got a 56-year-old man who is not married, who has never been married. Okay? And I'm not going to even over-intellectualize this shit. It is what it is. But he has kids and has that kind of money. He's never been married once. He doesn't like women. He doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't have something. He doesn't like them. I don't think I really do think he's probably one of those people who has drowned himself in messing with certain kinds of women because it's not okay in his mind to really like what he likes. But my thing is, if he's never been married, and this isn't a because we know women can go their whole lives and not get married, so on and so forth. Men don't operate like women, and men control marriage. And a man of his stature who's never done that and still is having these fucking juvenile conversations about what women shouldn't want, they're gold diggers, this, that, and the other. You know that. That's why you make the gold. Don't play. Don't play. Okay. So, and week after week, he sits his Sambo Cornel. That's exactly what he sounds like. Because his lips over his teeth, and it's just all of it's just a mess. A country, sorry, coonish mess. Okay. He has sat on his podcast, okay, making millions, laugh with not just Andrew Schultz, but Gary Owens with their degrading comments about Black women like it's a joke and shit like that. Why the hell am I going to defend somebody who does not defend me? He doesn't deserve that from the community. He doesn't deserve that kind of support. And even if he had been all those things every step of the way, like a Bill Cosby, it don't make what you did any different. And I still tried to, and the reason why I'm talking on it now is because I wanted to give it a chance. And even when I heard that audio at first, my first thought was, damn, she sounds awfully young. You know, because I wanted to hear it myself. And even when she said, I'll choke the shit, well, when he said to her, I'm going to choke, you say it again, I'm going to choke the shit out of you the next time I see you. I still felt like, you know what? Y'all know how Black people talk. And cultural differences, the way we talk, like we could be talking something, I'll kick your ass. And you know they don't mean it or whatever. I get that, okay? Because I definitely worked at a place where there was a Black woman who was the DEI director or whatever, and there was a Black woman who was the head of upper school, none of which translated into a better experience for me. But you'll get what I'm saying in a second. But the Black woman who was upper school director, she was a bitch. She was a narcissist. She actively disrespected me, wanted to hurt me, whatever. I left after a year. But there had been a faculty meeting previously, which I was not present at, but people had told me about this. And she was telling people, oh, you need to relax, but all of your reports and stuff need to be written by the end of spring break, this and the other. And they were basically asking her, like, why? And she got so upset that teachers were challenging her that she just walks out the meeting. Okay, this is the same person who likes to put other people under that kind of pressure, but can't handle it. Isn't that the way it goes? I say this to say the Black woman who's a DEI director gets up and she's talking about them and the way they had just treated the upper school director, who I don't think ever deserved defense. But nevertheless, she goes, you know what? I get tired of y'all too. Everybody gets tired and gets frustrated. That doesn't make it okay for y'all to disrespect somebody. You know what? Matter of fact, I have plenty of days here where I just want to step on somebody's fucking neck. And I just get tired, right? I remember hearing this and one was like, yeah, she threatened us, this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, I'm just hearing about this. I was like, this is bullshit. This is how Black people talk. And there was a Korean American woman who was actually a very good ally. But I remember she was talking. She had taught in Harlem public schools. And she went to an African American church. And I remember her saying, it was sad. It was just sad to see because they kept acting like she was threatening them. And I was like, I knew that's not what she was saying. And she said, but that's the narrative that they've gone with. So I say that as an example that Black people's cultural differences can be different and not meant that way. But in the case of Shannon Sharpe, because I had to use my, good mind, I say he's a former NFL player. He was an incredibly good tight end. And we all know that is within the vein of how NFL players operate. How many times have we cut on the news only to see another football player who has beaten and battered a woman, whether it's caught on tape or not, whether it's the Ray Rices, hell, the Jim Browns, all those years before, the abuse of O.J. Simpson. Who else? Who else was recent? There was another one. I mean, there's a lot of, and they're not just Black, but I'm just making a point. And I was like, yeah, there's a good chance he became violent. And we're not going to act like that isn't the norm. That's what I mean by I'm not going to over-intellectualize this. Well, it's possible. Yeah, there are a lot of things that's possible, but fuck it. So now this hoe ass bitch said, I want you to put a black baby inside of me. Okay? See, that already sounded racist to me. But the fact that she puts that in text messages and you didn't correct her, that already says the kind of white adjacent people you mess with. Now, she sued him for $50 million. That was just a few days ago. He settled today for $10 million. We are past the days of Michael Jackson, when Michael Jackson said that, you know what, settling was the worst mistake I ever made because I didn't realize that people would keep coming back. He said, I just wanted it to go away. That's why he did it. But I say that to say, and I don't believe Michael Jackson was a pedophile. I don't believe Michael Jackson was a pedophile. I don't believe Michael Jackson was a pedophile. That's bullshit. The way those people came out and said they lied before even he was dead, the day he was dead, the story has changed and switched. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. It's too inconsistent, and pedophiles on average commit 230 cases before they're even caught. Michael Jackson was not a pedophile. In the words of Paul Mooney, he may have been X-Files, but he was not a pedophile. Anyway, so I'm saying there's been enough evidence to learn from that. And you settled this within days? I don't want to hear your lawyer talk about in the court of public opinion. It don't matter if you would have taken it to court. And I'm telling you right now, if it was a black woman saying this, he would have fought her tooth and fucking nail just to prove a point. And speaking of which, okay, and I stand on that because at the end of the day, all you have is your name. I don't care. If I've worked that hard to build my reputation and my name, whether I like him or not, that's not the point. When you work hard to build something like that, you don't want nobody to just take that away from you. So, for example, Tavis Smiley, and y'all know I listen to Tavis Smiley. You know I have my criticism, but you don't agree with everything anybody does. Nevertheless, Tavis Smiley, when that stuff went down at PBS, and Variety magazine published that Tavis Smiley had been fired, and there were people who said he harassed them on the job, he created this kind of environment, that kind of, and Tavis Smiley told people, I found out I was fired when y'all did in Variety magazine, and Variety is not that kind of magazine. It's not, first of all, it's not like New York Times or anything like that. It's entertainment shit. And PBS had fired him. And he did say, look, I run a tight ship. Yeah, I have fired people. And these people are, have an axe to grind. He did say that. Now, he said, I went to court and everyone was like, well, why are you talking about it so much? He said, because that's my name. And at the end of the day, all I have is my name. Y'all know PBS offered him a settlement. They had a case because Tavis sued them. They couldn't find anything in those so-called investigations. They fired him without cause. So Tavis sued them and they tried to settle. He said, oh, no, this is going to court. Still, because Tavis went away from about 2016 to 2020. And he said, because I refuse to just settle. He said, they offered me millions. He said, I refuse to because at the end of the day, all I have is my name. And a settlement indicates that somehow I was still complicit in this. And that's not true. And I say that to say Shannon Sharpe, with all the money he has, he could have fought it too. He's chosen not to. He's full of shit. All right, that's what I'm getting at. Speaking of Variety magazine, fuck y'all, okay? Take your racist ass on. And I don't know what it is. No, I do know what it is. It's racism. With white people, I don't want to hear none of this bullshit about whether it's conscious or unconscious. White people know what they're fucking doing. They know when they commit these racist acts. They know when they do things to harm black children, black adults. They know it. That's why their instinct is to go, well, we need all the facts. We need all the facts. It doesn't matter that he murdered him with his bare hands, okay, with his knee on his neck. Eric Garner, George Floyd. It doesn't matter if they went in there and shut up Breonna Taylor. It doesn't matter. The reason why they defend it is because they know that. And when black people ever respond with anger, then, they're either crying or they get real hostile. White people know what the fuck they're doing. That's why they do it. So when they write, it is to help promote these ideas of white supremacy. I don't care whatever level it's on. They do that because they literally cannot psychologically take The fact that when a Black person is excellent at something, because it butchers that lie. When a Black person does well in school, graduates at the top of their class, does something foundational, I don't care if it's the National Science Foundation, Historical Association, they can't do it without belittling them. They can't do it. And the Black people who have internalized their racism will also do it to other Black people, but that ain't who we talk about right now. And I've seen it on the job. And people go, oh yeah, you're really good with the kids of color. First of all, that's bullshit. At a school, 96% white, my class don't ever look like that. I have never had a class of majority Black kids ever. And when I'm saying Black, I'm not even talking about African American, ever. From the time I was a graduate assistant at UCLA teaching 60 students a fucking quarter while still working on my PhD, to my time at, a private school on, the Upper East Side of New York, and then now. And people would do that. Well, yeah, you're really good with them. It's very hard for them to see an excellent Black person who does not compromise their Blackness and their belief in their humanity and protecting other children, and then children actually having to learn a new way of thinking. And me, when I was supposed to go down, I was supposed to be down for the count. Yeah, they'll leave in no time, this, that, and the other. And when it doesn't happen, or you do it on your own volition, it's very difficult for white people to accept that you can be that excellent at something. I say that to say, because that's exactly what they did to Ryan Coogler. I'm just going to be clear. Sinners was a great movie. It's the kind you need to watch 2 or 3 or 4 times to get all of it, and I will enjoy doing that. But I'm proud of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and what they accomplished. So they decided to write an article, Variety. That's my lead-in from Tavis Smiley's thing. Okay? Where they're talking about how this first weekend, where it grossed $60 million worldwide and 45.6 just right here in the United States, this movie not meeting the staggering $90 million that it took to produce the movie. First of all, in Hollywood, $90 million ain't shit to produce a movie. So that in and of itself was already racist, because it's the idea that they actually thought that was too much to spend on a Black movie. We would be talking about how low the budget was if it was for one of them white actors that stay rich, even though we don't watch their shit and white people don't either. Because Black people supported it, and Ryan Coogler is not a coon and made a movie for Black people about, or anybody who wanted to watch it, but how white people will literally suck the life out of you, try to steal a talent. If that's not a metaphor for the things that have happened in America, I don't know what is. He also negotiated a deal with Warner Brothers that would give him residuals directly, not Warner Brothers, him directly for the next 25 years from this film. That is a wildly incredible thing to pull off in Hollywood by anybody. And it was brilliant. And he did it. And he's young. And he's good at what he does. And he's married to a Black woman who helped carry him, okay? When he was broke and didn't have any money. He didn't do the other thing where you go and find you a new chick once you get on. And he's great at what he does. And he doesn't apologize for it. He does good fucking work. And for them to write a fucking article like that, I don't want to hear, yeah, Ben Stiller responded, yeah, and he was also in blackface in one of his movies. And that one where he was in the water and shit. Miss me. I don't give a fuck whether Ben Stiller defended it or not. I'm not praising no white people for pointing out what y'all fucking did was fucking wrong. They should, because y'all do it all the fucking time. Now, he may have just liked the movie and wanted to say something. And I'm not here to say that's wrong, and I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just not worshiping a white man when we say these things all the time and nobody listens, because all that does is promote white supremacy. Speaking of white supremacy, Trump is back at it. Never mind, he's signing 20 executive orders in a day, and that House Republicans, Senate Republicans are going to these town halls saying that defending Trump and Elon Musk, despite the fact that their citizenry is screaming at them, yelling at them, talking about how they've lost their jobs. That already tells you that the Democratic aspect, the worrying about actually being voted back in, is gone. It's gone. We have experienced a government coup. It's already been taken over. It has. Anyway, so Trump decided today he was going to publicly chastise President Zelensky of Ukraine. You know, the same one they disrespected in the diplomatic press room. Shame, shame, shame. All right. about the fact that Ukraine refuses to recognize Russia's claim to Crimea. Now, Crimea has been a serious part of this Russian-Ukraine war, okay? And it's a territory that belonged to Ukraine. But once again, Russia's trying to conquer and take over Ukraine. In that process, okay, here you are publicly chastising the man you're allied with for somebody who has been a consistent enemy, considered an enemy to this country, Putin and Russia, and you have chosen to chastise those people as if Russia didn't invade them. Yo, he's going to bankrupt this country and then he's going to sell it for $5. Everybody going to hell. All right. Speaking of hell, but I don't mean to say this about this person. The Pope passed, okay? The Pope passed, and God rest his soul. And he was as progressive of a Pope as one could hope from not just the 21st century, but also the 20th century. As you could find in the Catholic Church, he he defended Palestinian rights and spoke up against Israel's war and the genocide in the United States for helping supply them with arms to do it. He sanctioned gay marriage in the Catholic Church, and he has gotten hella pushback all these years. And so I wouldn't be surprised with the way the world is going. And I don't mean the world generally, but literally the leadership that people are voting in various countries. We're not the only one. If the Catholic Church doesn't do a complete regression, because there are plenty of cardinals and archbishops that resented the Pope for taking the stances that he took. And that to me, though, is admirable, right? Anyway, so I say that to say I'm sorry to hear it. God bless his soul. J.D. Vance, what he did before he went out, got his ass together and basically sent him to Sunday school to learn compassion before he went on. But that's that. Lastly, Cornel West is named the commencement speaker at Morehouse. And I'm going to explain why I have an issue with that, even though I'm a Spelman College alum. We're next door, but nevertheless. I have a problem with it. Taraji P. Henson is going to be our commencement speaker. I told you it's my reunion year. I won't be there because it's actually, it'll just take up, I'm just not going. I just have that kind of feeling. It's just not, I don't know. I just trust my intuition. But shout out to the class of 2010. All right. The reason why I have an issue with Cornel West, just for general reasons, many reasons, critiques that are on his channel, but also because in 2009, he came and did the commencement address, if you can call it that, at Spelman. Now, I know this because I was a graduation volunteer. Why did I volunteer to help with graduation? Because I still wanted to spend time with my friends and not move off of campus so quickly. And that allowed me to do that. So I did it. Okay. Anyway, so the commencement that year is now held at the Georgia International Convention Center or whatever. But that year it was held at New Birth because they always needed a larger space. Spelman's small, right? And yeah, speaking of devil, Cornel West gave a commencement address that was 10 minutes long. We're talking about a commencement address at a college, at a historically Black college of women. And we know commencement speakers do not get paid chump change. And Spelman College certainly does not pay people chump change. Okay? That's why they get the kind of speakers that they get. This son of a bitch spoke for 10 minutes. I personally found that incredibly insulting. He's up here doing jazz, blues, that kind of bullshit. He does John Coltrane, Donny Hathaway, this, that, and the other, and throwing out these little Black history facts here and there. 10 minutes. This was not a structured speech. It was not a prepared speech. And I could tell it was because he did not take Black people seriously. All of that shit he thought, and that's why a lot of that shit aggravates me too. All of that shit you want to talk about Obama or whatever, you had 5 wives. You ain't ever taken care of a Black woman. You have never married one. Meanwhile, Barack Obama, sellout, he may be, and is. Anyway, married a Black woman, his money goes to his wife and his Black daughters. Yeah, actually, there is something to be said for that. And him giving that bullshit commencement where he was wagging his finger like he always does at Black people, especially Black men, talking down to Morehouse, man, they should have canceled his honorary doctorate honestly, the fact that you were talking to black male college graduates about things they shouldn't be doing in society, like who the fuck do you think you talking to? That shit was embarrassing. You would think they would carry on more discernment. Anyway, he spent 10 minutes, mind you, he's shouting out Steve Harvey, I think, whose daughter was graduating that year, or stepdaughter, whatever, and talking about black men and what they need, this and the other. Motherfucker, you are at the #1 historically black college in this country. 2, one of the top liberal arts colleges in this country. One of the top women's colleges in this country. And you spoke to us like we're stupid because that's really what you think about black people. Here you are talking to a bunch of educated black people in this space and people who have sacrificed to send their kids to school. And you think throwing out a few Black History facts doing that's enough for black people to get excited. Fuck you. And me and another junior, because we were in the same class or whatever, well, juniors, rising seniors. And she was looking at me like, what? Like, even throughout the whole speech, because it was just like, this is so unimpressive. You were talking to people who, at their crux and core, literally, African Americans are at the core of everything in terms of our education. Basic Black history facts don't impress us. Whether it's economics or political science, yes, we learn the discipline. Like, I had to learn a lot of different history of science. I had to learn European history. I had to do all those things because it's a liberal arts college. But to talk to educated Black women who are graduating in 10 minutes about a bunch of bullshit with jazz, blues, and what music you like and trying to get the crap, it's because he thinks less of Black people. That's the real gag. Him getting recently fired from Harvard back in 2020, 2021, well, or just not getting tenure and renewed. He had fallout with Harvard before. But my thing is, he always wants to give people this talking to about the difference between success and greatness. People are worried about money and things like that, but they really need to be great. My thing is, you worried about the same damn thing. You've made enough money. And when that happened to you, you didn't make no sacrifice to go to Spelman, Morehouse, Fisk, Howard, Xavier, you name it. You didn't go to sacrifice to help the very people that you claim to love so much. Meanwhile, our professors that could have jobs at Smith, at Wellesley, at Mount Holyoke, at NYU, at Columbia, at Harvard, at Yale, have actually chosen to stay. Chosen to stay at Black colleges to make sure they were investing in us. And I say that's a big deal because Black colleges don't have the funding or the money or the endowments that other schools have. And so it is a sacrifice. It's because they believe in what they're doing. And so to have somebody like him come, and it offends me. And it was still the same sort of, you're talking about Black men and what Black men need. Motherfucker, you had Spelman College's graduation. If you couldn't handle it, you were talking to Black women college graduates. He didn't prepare because he didn't respect us enough to prepare. Because that's really what he thinks about Black people. So and him and Michael Eric Dyson always do that corny ass shit when somebody asks them about teaching at historical Black college. I'm not saying that people shouldn't work where they need to work. I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that people who make that criticism over and over again, and when they've been somebody who has been moneyed, slow your roll. Okay? Slow your roll. And so my thing is, him and Michael Eric Dyson do that shit. Well, I've never been asked. Motherfucker, you weren't asked back to Harvard. You asked for that job, and they told you they couldn't give it to you in tenure position. This is the best we can do. You did that while being married to another Jewish white woman, and you wanted to go back and live with her in Boston. You asked for that job. You negotiated that poor contract. But you were willing to do that for them, for the elite kids who really don't need you. And once again, I'm not suggesting that Black people shouldn't go and take jobs where they need to and that kind of thing. Like I said, I work at a private school over the summer. I, always try to work with Black kids that, and I do. So I understand. I also am a teacher, okay? I'm not making buku dollars. So I find him offensive. I don't think Morehouse has learned its lesson after the Barack Obama bullshit. If you watch any clips, watch 3 clips of Cornel West online and see if he don't say the same shit he's been saying. Not to mention the way they're treating pro-Palestinian Morehouse students. Right, and by pro-Palestinian, I don't mean like they're actually Palestinian. They just believe in supporting these people. But their president is retiring, so we'll see how that goes. But that's why it pisses me off. But anyway, that's all I got to say. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.